Sister Interval Sisterhood is a part of MAR Hosted Trips, which was started by Myra Thomas in 2020, and she has been running these dive trips around the world ever since. This year we started the Scuba Marmaids Dive School, which is what this conversation is a part of. And I am Chev. I am the Chief Admin Officer at MAR Hosted Trips and the Director of the Scuba Marmaids Dive School. Both Myra and I are instructors with Patty. Myra's been an instructor for a long time, is very experienced, and is a master instructor, and I am just a newbie starting out as an open water. So this program we're calling the Surface Interval Sisterhood, and our goal is to provide a way for us to stay connected in between dive trips. A way for us to continue learning and to stay connected, because a lot of us can't travel a lot or once or twice a year between dives and have a long time between dives. So this is a way for us to keep learning, stay connected, and further our diving education. We're doing that through three main programs. The Tea Time, which is what this conversation is a part of. It is a casual conversation where we just share some information, fun facts, things we think everyone should know about the diving industry. It's just a chance for you to ask questions and that sort of thing. We will also be hosting workshops. These will be more informative, more formal sessions. There will be a small fee for attending them, and we will be doing them about once a month on more specific subjects more thoroughly, and you'll get a little certificate for attending those. And then we're also going to be offering official accredited courses through Patty, Dan, whatever we can find that will correlate with the dive trips we're going on, either by enhancing our safety education or learning about local wildlife or sea life and things that we'll see on our specific trips, conservation, and those kinds of things. We're really excited about this program. There's a lot of courses actually that we can do without having to be in the water, or at least not the whole time. So keep in mind, in tune for that. This month we're offering the nitrox course, so that will be on September 14th, as you can see here. So if you're not nitrox certified but you'd like to be, as long as you're coming on a trip with us sometime in the next few months, I said 6 months just to keep the information fresh, you can join us on September 14th for that. Okay, so now that you know why we're here, let's get started. Hi Tracy, happy to have you here. I love when you guys make comments, so feel free to chat at me. And here we go. So, oops, sorry. You're a scuba diver. What next? Welcome to scuba diving. I just wanted to say a few things before we get started. Actually, of course, this information is all ultimately my opinion. I am a dive professional. I have been working in the industry for quite a few years now, and I've learned from a lot of people, but ultimately I put together this presentation. It's my opinion. Others might differ. It's not law. Remember that scuba diving is a very new recreational sport. It's a very new activity, so there's a lot of changes happening, a lot of innovation happening all of the time. So don't let anyone tell you that there's an absolute rule for something, except for always keep breathing. Things always change. We're always learning new things. Everything I share comes from my experience, as well as the professionals that I get to work with in my everyday life. One second, sorry. My purpose with this presentation is not to answer every question you might have about diving, but to give you a really broad perspective of the world of scuba diving and to know what questions to ask. Because I know when I started my dive career, I just felt so lost, and I didn't know where to look to find answers, especially about gear, about different types of diving. I'd hear conversations about people talking about technical diving and all these things, and I had no idea what they're talking about. So I hope that you don't have that experience, is my goal here today. And anything I talk about here, we're going to do a deeper workshop on later so that we can get more into the nitpicky things and more information. This is just a general idea. Okay? All right, let's go. So there are four main types of diving. Recreational, that's what we're all doing here. We are fun divers. The general standards, global standards, are that we can dive to 40 meters or about 130 feet in specific conditions in the ocean, in lakes, rivers, whatever. Those are kind of our parameters. We dive air or nitrox, and it's for fun. Technical diving allows you to kind of go beyond those limits. So it's still considered recreational as long as you're doing it for fun, but you can go beyond 40 meters or 130 feet because you're using different blends of gas. So there's a lot of extra training about that. You have to do special types of stops because you are going deeper. You can also, cave diving is considered technical diving, and that's a little bit about that. Professional is like me and Myra. We can take divers, or could be soon divers, into the water. So we can take certified divers on dives. We're local experts on the areas we're in, and we can also teach people how to become recreational scuba divers. Commercial diving is a totally different beast, and it's actually not scuba, because scuba, for the most part, scuba stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, right? So that's what we all use with our tanks. But in commercial diving, generally they have an air source direct from the surface usually, or a compressor somewhere. And because they go to such extreme measures and extreme places, it's not technically scuba. These are people like underwater welders, search and recovery beyond what we do in recreational, so we can find small things, but if you're finding like big boat motors and lifting boats that have sunk, that kind of thing, that gets into commercial territory. Okay, common recreational, we're going to talk recreational diving because that's what we do, right? So here's our common recreational diving configurations. Most of us dive back mount. We're on holiday. It's what we all learn in open water course, and it looks like this. If you want to level up, you can start doing side mount, like my friend Sarah here in this photo. Side mount can be done with 1 or 2 tanks. She's got 2 in this photo, but side mount can be done for people who like have back injuries or back problems and the back mount doesn't work for them. Side mount can be a good option because a lot of time you put your gear on in the water already. And of course it's great for cavern diving. You have to do side mount if you're going to do technical diving, but it doesn't have to be technical diving to be side mount, if that makes sense. Closed circuit rebreather is something really cool because in our back mount configuration we do open circuit, right? The air's in our tank, we breathe it in, we breathe it out, the bubbles go out and away. So that circuit is open, it's an open loop. But with closed circuit, you can see with these big hoses here, it actually is a system that collects the air you exhale and scrubs it and allows you to use the oxygen that is expelled. So we expel quite a bit of oxygen when we release. So you don't release bubbles with closed circuit rebreather, which is a really beautiful experience. You get a lot closer interactions with animals and things because you're not making so much noise. But of course it requires some additional training, but it's still recreational diving. And then, as I said, diving's a new sport, super new, so this is one of the newest innovations, and as far as I know, there's only one place in the world you can do it still, or as of now, and this is called a velo or a velo, and what it does is it allows you to use the water in your environment for buoyancy. So instead of using weights and your BCD for air, the air in your BCD, you can use the pumps in the Avelo to bring water in and out to control your buoyancy. So that's kind of a new development. And if you want to try it, the only place you can do it right now is in Bonaire, so you'll have to come with us to Bonaire next year to give it a shot. Cool. Okay, diving agencies. There are quite a few different accreditations in the world. The most common one we know, of course, is PADI. It's most common in North America. There we also have SSI, also very common, tends to be more common in Europe. NAUI, SDI, TDI, SNSI, there's a ton of organizations, and a common confusion is that if you're PADI certified, you can only dive at the PADI shops, and if you're SSI, you can only dive SSI, and that's not true. Any proper accredited organization, your certificate is good anywhere in the world. They all follow the basic safety standards. They just have little differences in how they teach them and how they think that certain procedures should be done. You can also interchange them recreationally. So if you're open water certified with PADI, you can do your advanced with SSI. that doesn't matter. The only time it starts to really matter is when you want to become a professional. Then you have to choose an organization that you want to get certified within professionally. So like I'm a PADI instructor. I can hold two though. I could go and get certified with SSI to be an instructor for them. It is limiting for dive shops. So as a professional, I'm not limited. But as a dive shop, they have to choose which accreditation they want to be with. So the shop that I work with in Roatan is a PADI dive shop, so we can only teach PADI courses. But it doesn't mean you have to be a PADI diver to dive with us. SSI is known for having a little more of a science-based approach. Something cool about PADI is that they're largely responsible for making recreational diving accessible. So they're kind of the ones that kickstarted the recreational diving industry and made diving accessible to everyone, which is pretty cool. Cool. Let's talk about dive gear. So our basic dive gear that we always use is BCDs, computers, fins, and regulators, and then all of our accessories. I'm including wetsuits and exposure suits in accessories because we know we could talk about exposure suits all day. That's going to be a whole workshop on its own because it's such an interesting beast, and there's a lot of innovation in that realm as well. So we'll save that for another day. We're going to talk quickly about these sections. So regulators. When it comes to regulators, we all know this from our open water course, but they're made up of 5 main parts. You have your first stage, which is the part that attaches to the tank. Your second stage, which is the part you breathe out of. Your alternate air source, your low pressure inflator that connects to your BCD, and your console. That's the basics. As we all know, if you've dove with anyone else, there is 100 different configurations for how to set up just the regulator. Every piece is usually sold separately because of this, because you can choose every part to serve the purpose you're going to use it. If we're all recreational diving in warm weather, we don't have to be as choosy with our parts as like ice divers who have to have different pieces of this that can withstand the cold conditions that they dive in. So it's also cool because you can totally customize your rig, but it can be a little overwhelming because you do buy most things piecemeal. Of course, some dive shops set up packages and things, and that's totally fine. Biggest differences here is alternate air source. There's different varieties. A lot of us, you learn with the yellow octo that goes in the safety triangle, right? But there's long hose configuration, air 2, lots of different options. Some people dive with a pony bottle, that kind of thing. The gauges are also like infinitely, customizable. So you can have, mine just has a pressure gauge on it, an air gauge, but before I had a console that had a pressure gauge, a depth gauge, and a compass on it. Some people have their computers integrated into their console. Lots of variety. Okay, computers. Again, if you've ever shopped for a computer and been totally overwhelmed by the options, you can have everything from, this is actually my computer, it's super basic, purple Mares Smart. It does everything I need. It does air, nitrox, and freediving, but it's super simple. Then there's tech computers. A lot of people use this for recreational diving, but it can be used for tech because you can program it with different air blends, different gas blends. This is the computer we all dream of, the Garmin Descent, and this one is a smartwatch, a dive computer, and a activity computer. So it's full GPS. It can track you on your runs. It can track you diving. It can pin the boat when you're diving. You can pin the location on the boat. It does everything. And then actually all of these options have the option for integrated. And so over here with the Garmin, this is called a transmitter, and it attaches to the first stage of your regulator and tells your computer how much air you have left. So instead of using a traditional gauge, you can also have the integrated transmitter, which is pretty cool. They also recently, the newest Apple Watch has dive compatibility. The Apple Watch, it doesn't have the dive app on it by default, but the watch itself is good till 40 meters-ish, and then you have to buy the diving app that goes with it to use it. As far as I know, that might have changed in the last couple minutes. Thank you so much for the comments, you guys. I so appreciate the support. All right, BCDs is another huge beast. Most of us learn on a traditional jacket or vest style. It's called both. It's called a vest or jacket because it goes around your entire body. The air also goes around the entire body, right? So when you add air to your BCD, it goes into the front and into the back. You also usually have bigger pockets and that kind of thing. And then the total opposite of that is a backplate and wing. This is more like the regulator, where it's totally customizable and piece by piece. So when you buy a backplate and wing, you can choose your wing, which is the balloon that holds the air. You can choose your backplate. You can get carbon fiber, stainless steel. So that is great, especially for dry suit diving, because the steel plates are heavier, right? So you can carry less weight on a dry suit if you have a heavy backplate. And the opposite, carbon fiber weighs nothing. So if you're traveling all the time, then you can have a super lightweight BCD. And then you get the webbing, and then of course just your inflator hose there. Some of the backplate and wing style too, I'll just mention, are convertible between back mount and side mount, which is super convenient. Cool. Fins, we have rec, tech, split, and free dive are the most common ones. Most of us have rec or tech fins. There's not like a big enough difference that it matters that you can't use one for the other. Rec fins are usually what we call paddle style, so just your typical traditional fin. They vary in size and weight and everything. I just switched from the Sea-Wing Novas to these in the picture. These ones are mine, these tech fins. So the difference between a rec and a tech fin generally is that tech fins are vented, most of them, so it allows the water to pass through them. So the main difference between a rec and a tech is that rec are meant to be quite powerful, and the tech ones sacrifice a little bit of that power for more control. So the vented configuration allows the water to move differently. So a lot of tech diving is in small spaces, so you can control your movements a little more minutely with a tech fin. But you can use a tech in recreational diving, no problem. Split fins are this weird little beast. I have not met anyone who genuinely loves a split fin. Maybe if you do, correct me. But their design is pure power. That is what a split fin is for, is to get you going places. I will say though that most people I know that need the power, who dive in a lot of currents, actually opt for using free dive fins instead of split. Largely because they are, you can have just one fin for two sports, which is always convenient, especially as we know diving is not a cheap sport. But free diving fins, like the free diving is really blown up in the last year or so, and they're beautiful fins often. You can get them in so many more beautiful designs than rec fins, which of course is not the most important thing, but they are super technical fins. So imagine with free diving, you need to be able to spend less energy, right? You're not taking in air like we are in scuba. So free dive fins are really specifically designed to give the most power for the least amount of effort. And they're often made of carbon fiber and lots of technical fancy materials. And so that's the difference there. They are also usually long. They're usually really, really long, again, because it's just power that they want is in free diving. They're not worried about making small movements in caves and swim throughs and that kind of thing. It's just pure power. Cool. Okay, and Josie, thank you for picking up on that. I did not mention masks specifically. I do count those as an accessory. Sorry if I insulted your split fins. So this is the most common question we get with new scuba divers, and even more seasoned scuba divers, is what do I buy first? I will tell everyone always, buy a mask. If you're not going to buy anything else, get yourself a mask. there's nothing more frustrating than having a mask that doesn't fit properly, or is fogging up all the time, or is painful, pinching. Buy a mask, okay? Also, as an instructor, when you have issues with your mask, that and your regulator is what induces the most amount of panic. So if you want to just set yourself up for success, just go buy a mask. Get one fitted for you. Dive shops are usually great. They will let you try on a bunch of different ones to see. Things to look for when buying a mask, just quickly, because I have these super cute little dimples. This is the biggest problem for me. So I have a really soft silicone mask, and every time I smile underwater, which if you've dealt with me is constantly, I get a crack here and my mask fills up with water. It's fine with me, I don't mind. But if I wanted to get rid of that, I would get a mask with a thicker, stiffer silicone that would hold it better, so when I move my cheeks, it doesn't let the water in. There's also some really, again, as we know with most things, everything is designed for white men to start. And so we have to wait a bit as women, and especially as people of color, for more designs to come out. So specifically, depending on your nose shape, so like my Asian friends have a lot of difficulty with some of the more traditional masks because of their different nose shape, right? So that's why I say it's really important to get your own mask that fits properly, and you might have to look for a while for it, but it's really worth it. So that's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming. Next, most important is the computer. So masks are not that expensive, but computers are. Even the most simple ones start at around the $250, $300 mark, but it's the most important safety item you will buy for diving. So get a computer. You must have a computer to go on a trip with Marhost trips because they're that important. I bought that Mara's Smart 4 years ago as my little intro computer that I would upgrade later, and it's still looking great after 4 years. So just get what you need, and then you can also change it later, but get something right away. The next thing I like to buy is fins, because again, you don't know what you're going to get with a rental shop. That's your control, that's your power, and everyone's feet are different. You don't know if your shop's going to have full foot and you're going to get blisters maybe, or open heel. Just get your own fins. BCD, I have two minds about. I think it's not the most important piece of equipment to buy, but if you are either above or below the average sizing, BCDs are really important. So if you're really petite, really slim, or especially for women, we struggle a lot with BCDs, and getting woman-specific design is really helpful if you're very curvy, if you're well endowed, and that kind of thing. And also if you're larger, then having the integrated waist is really important. And so having your own BCD, if you're on either end of the human body spectrum, then it's more important to get the BCD for your comfort, for your safety. Do that. Regulator, of course, it's your air source, it's your life underwater, is the next important thing. And then accessories are kind of scattered in there. So things like a DSMB, I think everyone should have them as soon as they go on their first fun dive, but it's not required. A lot of people, like if you're always diving in calm conditions in groups, maybe you don't need it. But for me, it's a super simple piece of equipment that I can have with me all the time, and it could save my life one day. I think that's all I will say about that. Again, we could do a workshop on each of these items on their own. Let's make sure I didn't forget anything. So for accessories, I will just mention the DSMB. Like I said, your own buoy is super important. A light is really awesome to have, even if you're not night diving or cavern diving or anything like that. In conditions like in the Pacific, it's really helpful for communication because the visibility isn't always amazing, and you can use it to communicate with your buddy or the dive master just to kind of let them know where you are. Cameras, of course, are accessories, and squeakers or tank bangers. I am firmly in the only for emergencies camp when it comes to squeakers and tank bangers. Not everyone feels that way though, but it is important to have, again, if you get lost or you're having an emergency, you can, or squeeze to get someone's attention. Cool. I just like this little tidbit I added here. Don't let people pressure you into gear. Everyone has their own preferences. I've stated mine quite clearly, but you need, it's for you. It's your dive gear. You're going to be using it. Get something that you like and that makes you feel comfortable. Cool. Things to consider before buying gear. So all of the dive gear is specifically designed for different conditions and different uses. So think about where you will be diving. So like I mentioned before, ice divers in colder climates, they need to make considerations with their first stage and second stage especially, that can handle cold water and possibly ice in the water, like little slush pieces. Are you going to be traveling all the time? Someone like me, I travel full-time with, as you all know, my 2 little backpacks. So for me, gear has to be lightweight and it has to be small. So that's the decisions I make. But that might not be you. You know, Myra and Vicky, they're the opposite. They always are able to travel with a large suitcase, so they have a little more flexibility on what gear they can buy, especially BCDs. But even with the regulator, you can get pieces that are plastic versus metal. So if you're like cavern diving or shore diving, when you know there's rocks and sand and things that can get into your gear, having metal pieces makes a lot more sense than I have plastic pieces, because I need them to be lightweight and I'm not usually banging them around on the rocks. Climate matters. You know, if you're dry suit diving, your fins are going to be a different size, because you either have dry booties or like 7 or 10 mil wet booties are going to be a different size than for us who wear little socks in the Caribbean or little tennis shoes. And then of course body shape, especially with BCDs, is a huge thing to consider. Again, we have to wait for the innovations to come, and they are coming. The Xena Ziegel, or Ziegel Xena, I can't remember which way that goes, is a really popular BCD for women because it's a corset style. So instead of like 2 buckles, it zips all the way up, and a lot of people find it really comfortable for our women's shapes. My Scuba Pro Hydros BCD, I got the women's design, and the chest clips are in a different spot, which doesn't sound important, but it really is, because imagine the chest zip here versus here where I have it. But my friend has the exact same BCD and it's the men's, and I tried it on, and yeah, the chest clips are here. So those things really matter, especially if you're diving all the time. A lot of these things you don't notice until you go on a liveaboard, until you go on a trip with us and you're diving 20 times in a week. All of a sudden, the little things you don't notice after 2 or 3 dives really start to bother you and hurt your back and give you blisters and things that suck. So all these things are really important to take consideration. Okay, courses. So this I found to be a very overwhelming part of learning to dive, because everyone's like, let's become a scuba diver. We all go get certified, and like, yeah, I'm a scuba diver, and all of a sudden your instructor's like, here are all the different courses you can take now, and it's like, whoa, so many different options. So I'm a PADI instructor. I will be talking about the PADI method. SSI, SDI, they all have their own flow charts that look just like this one, but they'll have their own courses and own specialties and stuff in there. I know about PADI, so that's what we're going to talk about. So PADI, I kind of split them into like the core courses, the specialties, distinctive specialties, conservation, and pro. These are not official categories, these are Chev categories. So core courses I consider to be open water, advanced open water, rescue, and a couple of the specialties. The specialties are all of these ones here that are like really, they're not like required for recreational diving, but they're really interesting and really cool, and maybe you want to learn. So things like underwater photography, underwater propulsion vehicle, DPV, diver propulsion vehicle diver. Whew. it's easier. The course is easier than it is to say. Dry suit, I did when I was diving in Canada. Do less of it here in the Caribbean. Full face mask, night, etc. Distinctive specialties are this thing that I think is really cool that Patty does, and anyone can create their own distinctive specialty. So the Marmaids could all get together and we could come up with an idea, and Patty would help us create the requirements for a distinctive specialty course, and then we could get accredited to certify it. So some examples of this are like where I did my instructor course in Cabo. They have a distinctive specialty called the Whale Defender, and the shop there actually developed this course, Jay Clue and the Dive Ninjas, and they specialize in the whales because there are so many whales off the coast of Baja, and this course is really cool, and it talks about like how important whales are for the ecosystem and their migration patterns and all that kind of cool stuff. So that's just one example. There's another one that Danny took in the Gillies that's like scientific diving and conservation focused. And then it goes all the way to the other end where there's one like underwater apocalypse zombie diver and really like fun and silly ones that you can learn. So I think that's pretty cool. Conservation courses is something that we're actually going to take a focus on over the next year, and I'm really excited about. And so there's with Aware, which is partnered with Patty. They do courses like Fish ID as an Aware course, Dive Against Debris, and there's like a reef conservation ones, lots of those kinds of things to learn more about reef functioning and things. And then of course we have our pro courses, which start with Dive Master is the first pro level. They are allowed to take certified divers diving and run a couple programs. And then you have all of these levels of instructor going up. Cool. So once you become open water certified, what are the courses that you really should take as a new diver, or even as a seasoned diver now? And this is mine and Myra's opinion. Again, not everyone agrees, but these are what we think are really important and why. So after your open water course, depending on you and how you're feeling and your instructor and how you did in the open water course, if you are still really focusing on your buoyancy when you're diving, then take the PPB. PPB stands for Peak Performance Buoyancy, and it's a 3-dive course where all you do with the instructor is work on your buoyancy, and you work on your weight placement, and you work on your position in the water, and you get to swim through hoops and knock over weights and all kinds of fun things, but all you do is practice your buoyancy, because once you have that, then you can learn new things. In diving we call it, well, in general we call it task loading. If you're trying to learn new things when you haven't mastered the old ones, you get overloaded and you can't function, and it's not safe. So you can't learn anything new until you can dive without thinking about your buoyancy. So that's why that one's first. And I really suggest, and Myra suggests, doing it in partnership with the Advanced Open Water course. So this is a hot take, I guess, but another camp I'm firmly in is that you should do your advanced soon after your open water. Some people say to wait till 50 dives or to get more practice, and I say no, because what's the point? The advanced is to advance your skills that you learned in the open water. So if you wait till you have 50 dives, you've probably already learned a lot of those things just by trial and error and by practice and experience. So doing it in a course doesn't really, now it's just checking boxes so that you can move on to the next level. So take it right away. You can do, it's a 5-dive course. You can do one of the PPB dives with that course, and then just do 2 more buoyancy dives, and then the rest of your advanced, and then it sets you up for success for the rest of your dive career. Again, in my opinion. And it will save you some money if you do the 2 together. The next one I think you should do is the deep specialty, especially if you're going to travel with us. You're going to do multiple dives, you're going to go on a liveaboard, you're going to go to cool sites. Do the deep specialty. Get used to going to 130 feet, not that we do it often, but know the risks, know the adaptations, know the signs in yourself of gas narcosis. Because For everyone it's different, and for everyone it happens at different depths, and it's something everyone is really afraid of until it happens to you. So it's not something to be afraid of, but it's something to be aware of, getting narked, as we say. So doing the deep specialty gives you a chance to experience that and know the signs in yourself and correct it before you continue on with your dive career. And nitrox goes hand in hand with that. Again, if you're doing repetitive days of diving and repetitive dives, like, it's just a no-brainer to do nitrox. It's annoying because it always costs more, of course, but say you're doing on a liveaboard. I was in Thailand in December. We did 4 dives a day for 9 days. Can you imagine that by the 4th dive of the day, if I was on air, my no deco limit would be like 20 feet on the last dive every day for 20 minutes, you know, because we're in the water so much. So using nitrox gives you that extended bottom time. You can, not that we go crazy deep, but then I can go to 40 feet on my last dive of the day for 20 minutes and then work my way up, which is it. You don't have to be thinking about your deco limits all the time when diving nitrox. And shameless plug to take the course with me in a couple weeks. And then rescue is a really great course. Again, different people have different opinions about this, but I think the rescue course is awesome for making you a confident diver. It is not this like crazy difficult course where you have to lift people and be super strong and stressed. That's not what the rescue course is about. But what it does is it teaches you self-rescue. So what to do if you don't have a good buddy and you're on your own, something happens and you're in a tough situation, you learn how to deal with that yourself. And it lets you be a better buddy. For me, it's how I learned about my gear. In that rescue course, one of the skills is taking off all of the gear of yourself and your buddy. And by the end of the day, you've done it 4 or 5 times. I knew where every single buckle on my BCD was after that day. And so it's a really cool course to do. And the purpose of the rescue course is to put you under pressure, to make you a little bit stressed, not crazy stressed, but a little bit stressed, so that if and when you're in a stressful situation, you already know how to react. That's why we do everything in diving, is to learn it in a safe, confined environment, so when it happens in real life, your muscles, your brain, everything already knows what to do. It's not new, it's not a surprise. It clicks on and you can find your way out of the situation. So I totally recommend doing the rescue course as soon as you feel like you're ready for that challenge. It's not necessary for diving, but when you're ready to learn something new, take the rescue course. Oh, I went too fast. There we go. Whatever you do, I'm a firm believer that we only learn when we're passionate about things. So learn what you like. Think about things that interest you and do that. Again, don't let people pressure you into courses unless it's something really good like the rescue or the advanced course. But to find things that you're really interested and excited by, and then go and do them. Do distinctive specialties. There's some really fun ones. Josie is a zombie diver. Go take the zombie course with her. That would be so cool. We have a certificate in my dive shop here that's underwater basket weaver. I have no idea what it's about, but I'm imagining someone weaving a basket underwater. It gives me a giggle every day. And then of course conservation stuff. That's something I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about, and Danny's going to be helping us with. And I hope you're excited about it too, and maybe we'll see you there in a course in the future. And we're going to do a lot of these things. So again, the whole purpose of why I'm here today is these online learning opportunities we want to provide to everyone. And so this is a little taste, this session today, of what we'll be offering in the future. But here we have distinctive specialties. We're going to use the ones that align with our trips. So like the Whale Defender course, I will teach that one. I'm certified to teach that one because, you know, we go to Socorro, which is off of Baja, Galapagos, all these places with the pelagic Sea of Cortez and the whale sharks. Like all of these pelagics places we go for the pelagics can benefit from the whale defender course. Marine life, fish ID, conservation, these are just really interesting so that when you go to a new place, you already like know some of the marine life and you can say identify things and know if you're seeing something really cool or rare and that kind of thing. And then like I said before, a lot of our courses lot of courses can be done either partly or all before you're actually in the water, and or just need like 1 or 2 dives when we're together on a trip to get certified. So let's embrace those opportunities to learn and do that together. And I think it's really cool, this stuff that we're doing. I think it's a really neat opportunity. So I hope you join us. And of course, it would not be a MAR Hosted Trips presentation without talking about dive travel, because that's what we're all doing here. So there's 2 main types of dive travel, land-based and liveaboards. If you've never heard of a liveaboard before, that's where you go onto a boat and you live and you dive and you eat and you sleep on the boat for a weekend, for 5 days, 10 days. There's a whole variety and they're all over the world. So land-based is like you've probably been doing before. You go to a place, you dive with them, you do other things when you're not diving, and then you repeat. These are great because you can travel with your non-diver friends and partners. They can do other more boring things, I assume, while you're diving, and then you can meet up with them later. But you are limited usually with land-based diving because you can only go, within an hour boat ride from shore. No one wants to spend the first half of their day driving to a dive site. So most places, the boat is like with 5 minutes to an hour to your dive site. Whereas with the liveaboard, the boat is moving all the time. So you can sail overnight maybe, and then you wake up in a new spot and you go for a dive, and then you sail over lunch and you dive in a different spot, and you can reach way more places that way, especially places like Socorro, Galapagos, all these places that are really remote. And the cool thing about it is, of course, if it's remote, there's no one there. So often, like when I was in Thailand, we wouldn't see anyone underwater. It would just be us because we're so far away from the crowds and from other divers and things. But the trade-off is that most liveaboards only allow divers because they can't sacrifice space on the boat for someone who's not going to be diving. And you really do dive, dive, dive. Get up, have a snack, dive, breakfast, dive, lunch, dive, snack, dive, dinner, sleep. That's all. It sounds like heaven, I know, but it's not for everyone. And I will also say about things to know about liveaboard is that it's not necessarily difficult diving, but it does take a certain amount of ability and fitness to do a liveaboard. And it was very humbling for me in Thailand. You were exhausted from diving so much. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about booking one, that you are doing another trip where you dive 2 or 3 times a day for a week straight, just to kind of get an idea of the effects it will have on you as a person. So solo dive travel, this is kind of our shtick. I'm a solo traveler all the time. And it can be intimidating. And so when you're thinking about dive travel, think about where you want to go. Look into forums, look at safety ratings for the country, of course. We're all women, we know that that's just a fact of our lives. We have to think about these things. Of course, take it with a grain of salt. Just because there's a government warning about a country doesn't mean that it's not safe for you to be there. But gather the information about the areas you want to go. And also think about what you want to see. Are you looking to see whales and sharks and big pelagics, or do you want to look for every different type of nudibranch possibly could be found in the sea? Those are very different environments in very different parts of the world. So what fascinates you? Do you want to be challenged? Do you want to do drifts? Do you want to be super relaxed and just have easy dives? Think about all those things, and then that will narrow down your search. Also think about what do you want to do on land if you're doing a land-based. Do you like hiking? Remember, you can't go to elevation after diving, but there's lots of little trails and beach hikes and things you can do that are safe to do after diving. Or do you want to sit on a beach and have no one talk to you for the rest of the day? Those are two different types of travel. Picking a shop is really, really hard. Really hard, especially like I'm in Roatan here. There's like 100 dive shops on this tiny little island. So how do you pick one? How do you know if you've never been to the place what's good, what's not? And the only like best suggestion I have for you is just the reviews. Reviews, reviews, reviews. I always filter my reviews and I look for the most recent. So I always look for within the last 6 months. If someone doesn't have reviews from the last 6 months, think about you as a person. When do you write reviews? When you really love something or when you had a really bad experience? If you had something in between, you're probably not going to write a review. So if people have lots of reviews, that means people had enough emotional reaction to the experience to leave a review. And I also look at the word count. If they wrote, had a great time, that's a good review. But if they wrote a paragraph about how their dive master took the time to know that they loved turtles and took them to a site that showed them turtles, and they were so happy, and they were really nervous at the start, but their dive master made them feel so safe and comfortable, that's a different review. So I look for those, and I look for reviews by women. I look for photos, I look for pictures of women, especially women of color, people of color in them, just diversity in general. I look for those because that tells me that it's probably a warmer, welcoming environment if there's more diversity in the photos. Check their status. So for PADI, there's a rating system, and so there's no reason that a place shouldn't be a PADI 5-star dive center unless they've done something to lose their status. It should be convenient for you, the dive shop, close to your accommodations, close to where you can go out to eat and find activities to do on the non-diving time, or it should be have transport included. And then a really important thing for me is communication. Another thing I look for in their photos is look at the gear. If there's lots of pictures of the divers and stuff, look at their gear. How they take care of their gear, their boat, their shop, is how they'll take care of you. So if their shop looks messy and run down, they're not going to take as good care of you as if they put some effort into making their shop warm and welcoming. There's a difference between being like a disaster and just being, dive shops are in hot places close to the ocean, salt destroys everything, so they're not going to be like pristine 5-star hotels, but they should have some care put into them. And how the shop communicates with you is so, so, so important. How they talk to you, are they condescending? Are they annoyed by your questions? Or are they fast to answer and happy to help you? That's going to be how they treat you while you're there, right? I know it's really hard, but don't base everything on price. Don't base your experience on price. Sometimes you get what you pay for. Not always, but don't look for the cheapest thing, and not necessarily the most expensive thing is going to be better, right? And then my last tip is to connect with locals. Facebook groups are still the best way to do that. That still seems to be where people gather. So look for, if you want to come to Roatan, look for Roatan Travel, Roatan Locals. If you want to go to Cozumel, same thing, Cozumel Divers. Look for those Facebook groups and then use the search function to ask all your questions. Because if you have that question, someone else has probably had that question before, and you can find the answer. Or even find places to meet up and stuff with people. And if you have picked a good dive shop, they'll give you recommendations as well of things to do on your downtime. But if you don't want to do all the work and all of that research, maybe you should come on a group trip. I think I know a good one that you can come to. But a really cool thing about group travel is that it pushes you out of your comfort zone, because maybe they'll take you to places you wouldn't have discovered on your own, or you wouldn't have thought to travel to on your own. You get a guaranteed dive buddy on group trips. A lot of us mermaids especially, our partners don't dive, or we don't have friends that dive. This way we get to meet people that have similar interests to us, and we, especially at Mar Hosted Trips, we match you with someone of the same experience level, so you can learn from each other and then also learn from the other divers in your group. You don't have to make any decisions on a group travel trip. Everything's planned for you. Some people love that, some people hate it. either is fine. And hopefully, if you've picked a good group travel organizer, they know the good dive shops, and they already have relationships with the dive shops, and they have expectations, and you know that you're going to be taken care of. So when picking group travel operators, it's similar to picking a dive shop, right? Look for reviews. What do other divers say? What do other travelers say? What's the tone they use? What's their language they use? Something I didn't mention with the dive shops, but social media, I mean, I know we throw that word around so much, but I think it really shows the character of the dive shop or the operator you're going with. Their social media presence shows you the people you're going to be with. It's the human side of the things. And so if they don't have social media presence, to me, it means that they don't need it. They're busy enough. They don't need the customers, and that could be great. It means that they're really successful, or it could mean that they don't really care whether or not you come dive with them. And again, it shows you the personality, the heart of the organization you're going with. Think about travel style. Mara Hosted Trips, we're a company that we organize everything. We have activities planned, we have dinners planned. A really good point that Heather mentioned here is that you don't have to do every dive on a liveaboard, and same with us. You don't have to do every activity, but it's there and it's planned, and if you want to do it, all you have to do is raise your hand and probably bring some cash. However, there are other operators that are totally different, and you build the entire trip yourself and pick what you want to do and commit to it. So whatever you're looking for, that's what you should pick. Remember that you deserve an expert, okay? It kind of feels right now, I don't know if you feel this, but like every influencer, every travel blogger, everyone is offering group trips right now. And that's awesome. It's really cool that people are traveling more in groups and solo travel and stuff. But we're also seeing fraud and accidents and people who don't know what they're doing and have never led a group and have never maybe traveled to a specific place before. And that can go south really quickly. So you don't want to be someone's guinea pig, right? So remember that you deserve an expert. And when it comes to dive travel specifically, you should have a trip leader, someone who is professional, like at MHT. All of our trip leaders are professional divers. And so even though they might not be leading the dives, they know what to look for. They know when a dive shop is cutting corners and when a dive shop is breaking standards and maybe not doing things correctly. So having a trip leader is really important, and you deserve it. And again, communication. How does the company communicate with you? Do you feel heard? Do you feel seen? Are your questions being answered in a kind and timely manner? What kind of people are in the photos? Again, is there diversity? Are there women there? It's so frustrating. I'm sure all of you have experienced this, feeling like you're the only woman in the room. I know I have, especially in diving. I've often been the only woman on the boat when I travel by myself. So that's something I look for. And again, diversity in everything. And yeah, just beware of fraud. Do your research when you're picking the company. Pick someone with good reviews, lots of recent reviews, and experience. You deserve it. Whatever you do, keep diving. It's just so important that we keep doing something that we love and it brings us joy. It's why I am here and working with Myra and working with Mara Hosted Trips, because I love, love, love seeing all these women being empowered by scuba diving and finding something that they do for them that is super fun and it connects us. We have this really cool women's community that has created a community is the only word I can think of, but these bonds between us, that's in a supportive network, and that's really cool. So whatever you decide to do, whatever interests you, just keep doing it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to take some time to answer some of the questions that came through the chat. So if something else comes up came up that you would like to ask, go ahead and type it in the chat there. I so appreciate you being here. This is my first one of these. Hopefully You can see my face next time. I'll figure that out because I even put up makeup for you today. But I'm going to do these at least once a month, a tea time and a workshop or a course every month. I would love to see you there. I've created a website here on our Mar Hosted Trips site under Scuba Marmaids. You can see all the courses and stuff we're going to offer and the schedule. And then if you're not already following us on Insta, of course, there's MHT, Scuba Marmaids, Myra, and me. I am Chev Strolls. We love you too, Josie. I'm just going to scroll back here. Let's see. Thank you. So I'm correct about needing to buy the app for the Apple Watch. Tracy was wondering about freediving fins. You know, I don't know enough about them. I do have a friend that uses hers for scuba diving, and she uses them because she lives in Baja and she dives a lot in Cabo Pulmo and in Cabo San Lucas, and sometimes there's a lot of strong current there, and so she likes the freediving fins for that. I don't know what kind she has though. Is your question about like carbon fiber versus like vulcanized rubber or whatever they are? Boop, boop, boop. Josie has a zombie cert coming up if anyone's interested in diving in Washington with her. Yes, Nitrox is super important. If you don't have it, yeah, sign up with us. It's on the website. We'll do it. It's $190. You get the e-learning included, and then we're going to do a like 1 to 2 hour call, kind of like this one, but an interactive call on the 14th to answer all your questions and talk about the how do you say, culture of nitrox and stuff like that. Aw, thank you, friends. Aw. Thank you, everyone. So nice to have you. I wish I could see you. I really appreciate you guys being here and asking questions. I'll give a few more minutes if anyone wants to ask another one. I will see a lot of you in Roatan here. So I'm back here in Roatan for a month here, and then I'm going to Galapagos on the liveaboard. I'm leading that trip, and then I'm leading the Roatan trip here in October, and our next Scuba Marmaids Dive School. I'm so excited about it. You have no idea. We created such a really cool, beautiful event around this, and so in October we're doing the open water advanced and rescue courses again, but for 2025 I'm actually developing a master scuba diver program as well. So once you have your advanced and rescue, you can do that, and it will be a chance to do some of those specialties I talked about earlier in a lovely place like Roatan or Tulum or something. And I'm developing more presentations like this that I'll share on the scuba retreats, and we'll be doing workshops on gear maintenance and talking about being a woman in the dive industry and wetsuits, all of that good stuff. So I'm really excited about that. Heather, I didn't know this about freediving. Thank you. That's my 2025 thing to learn is freediving. Cool. All right. Thanks again, ladies, for coming today. This recording will be saved and available in the Facebook group as soon as we're done here. And I will see you on another Service Interval Sisterhood event very soon. Ciao, everyone.